There's got to be at least 1,000,000,001 videos out there on travel to Paris and Rome, and I am excited to add to that list. Here is my story. What's up, my community? So, our journey began in Paris, France, where we started out in Charlotte, took a pit stop in Washington, and then flew clear across the Atlantic Ocean to Paris, where we stayed at the lovely boutique Hotel Monge. Now, this was such an amazing experience staying here. The people were so friendly, so accommodating. When we got there, we actually arrived quite early before check-in. It was early that morning, and we weren't to check in until like 3. And they allowed us to stay here in this cute little nook here. Angel slept right on that couch, until they were ready for us, and they actually allowed us to check in early. But it was just so cute and so quaint and comfortable. Felt like a bed and breakfast, but they were so accommodating. And even though we didn't speak a lick of French, they accommodated and spoke in the broken English that they had to be able to communicate with us. They had a lovely spa area that came equipped with a sauna that I didn't get a chance to take advantage of, so definitely means I have to go back. And it was so comfortable. The room was nice and comfortable. Angel loved it. They served us breakfast every morning in that comfortable little nook, and it was a French breakfast, so that was definitely interesting. So definitely recommend, if you're looking for somewhere to stay in Paris, I would highly recommend Hotel Monge. Now on with our excursions. Hotel Monge was conveniently located in city center and was about a 10 minutes walk away from the Pantheon there in Paris. And so that was one of our first stops. And at the Pantheon, they were paying tribute to Josephine Baker, an American-born French entertainer and civil rights activist. Now, you guys, when I say the architecture, just everywhere. You could walk just around the corner and find the most amazing architecture, and the Pantheon was no different. It was absolutely beautiful. Along our stay in Paris, we also checked out other historical landmarks like the Sainte-Chapelle, which offered again just some amazing architecture. I mean, it was awe-inspiring. It was holy. It was beautiful. And it just was jaw-droppingly, amazingly gorgeous. Crossing over the bridge, we also stopped off by Notre Dame. And there was absolutely no way that we could leave Paris and not experience the world's most famous museum, the Louvre, where I had the opportunity to take some amazing photos of sculptures such as Jesus Christ, and take in the sights of some beautiful regal adornment, and even got to hang out with Mona Lisa. And honestly, the pictures just doesn't do it any justice. I'm telling you, when I say the architecture, you're going to hear me say this 1,000 times in this video, but it is just simply amazing and mind-blowing. We also had an opportunity to have a wine tasting at Le Cave de Louvre. I hope I said that right. And that was also a really amazing experience. But I'll have to say one of the highlights of this trip in Paris was this amazing photo shoot that we got by this amazing photographer, Michael Planson. Michael took our photos by the Eiffel Tower and along the Trocadero Gardens, And he was just the most amazing photographer. He was so sweet and nice, giving us suggestions of other places that he would suggest us to go if we had time, which we didn't. But it was just a really, really fun experience. He tried his very best to capture some of the most precious moments for us there, and even offered us his personal information so that whenever we come back, we can contact him directly for, some more photos. So if you're going to Paris and you're looking for someone to take photos, some professional photos of you there and your family, I absolutely would suggest you hitting up Mikhail, because he is absolutely a really wonderful person and a great photographer. Now, one of the things that I realized on this the trip in Paris was that I didn't have a lot of food photos, in which I'm bad about taking food photos anyway, because when it's time to eat, I don't play no games. But I feel like we were doing so much running around that we did not take advantage of a lot of food or did a lot of eating. But before we left, we had to have some authentic Parisian food. So we, stopped at this restaurant owned by a husband and wife, where they were the chefs. And my husband tried foie gras for the first and I believe last time, which is some type of duck or goose liver, but I can't remember in this case which it was. But there was still so much that we did not get a chance to see, which, again, just proves that we just have to go back. So I'm definitely looking forward to my next trip again to Paris. But during this trip, our next destination was Rome. And you guys, Rome was absolutely my favorite, okay? We stayed at the lovely Hotel Artemide, which was also conveniently located in city center, so easy walking distance to a lot of things, right near a delicious gelato spot. And the concierge here was also wonderful. They loved Angel. They treated her like a little princess, as did many people on this trip, both in Paris and in Rome. She was just a hit at the hotels, the restaurants, at the pharmacies, on the street. She was a little princess. But I tell you, there was so much love here. Also, a very comfortable stay. They also had a spa that I did not get a chance to take advantage of. But again, just means I have to come back. The room was very, very comfortable and spacious. And they were really nice to have this cute little bed there for Angel, and complimentary snacks, and it was just a whole vibe, y'all. It was really, really cool. As you can see, Angel absolutely enjoyed it herself. This little girl was all over the place. And y'all, I had my first experience with a bidet. Yeah. I don't even know. I cannot say that I liked it, but I didn't mind it. It was a different experience. But one thing I gotta talk about is their 5-star breakfast. Y'all, when I say this place did not like shy from any of the 5-star arrangements for breakfast. Like, you came in, you filled out a card, you told them what you want. They brought it to your table like a full out like gourmet meal. And if you asked for the cake of the day, you got this delicious assortment. The actual baker came around and just cut delicious pieces of cake for you. It was a whole vibe, y'all. And so they also were really nice to offer us complimentary drinks at their rooftop restaurant. And it was just really nice. But hey, that's enough about the hotel. Let's get on to what we saw. So while here in Rome, we had an opportunity to take in some really historical landmarks that blew my mind. We got to take in some of the sights at Vatican City, and also got a chance to take in the sights at the Colosseum. I honestly could not believe that I was taking in all of this amazing history. Places that I've only seen in history books and on the History Channel and in magazines and on TV. And here I am in person, taking it all in. And I mean, all I could do was just say, wow. I had to say wow like a million times on this trip. And even, looking back now at some of the videos and the pictures, it's hard to believe that I was there in person. My feet were on those grounds, and I was there taking in all of this history and being a part of history. It just made me feel really, really special. And one thing I really appreciated about the reverence they had for the Sistine Chapel, where the really famous painting by Michelangelo is located, is that you are not able to take photos there. You are able to take it in, but you can't take photos. So where I did get to see that, I didn't have any photos. So I'm going to take a pause for the calls and add in a little bit more B-roll here for you guys to take a look at some of the amazing sights that we got to see while at Vatican City. Be right back. Now, here we had an opportunity to take an elevator to the top of the dome at the St. Peter's Cathedral at Vatican City, and there was a warning. There was stairs that you could take, and there was a warning because if your health was not good, it could be very detrimental, because it was like over 500 steps to get here. But it was absolutely beautiful when you got up here. There was even this beautiful view of the city that you could see from all the way up here, and it was just an absolutely wonderful experience. And as I mentioned, we had the opportunity to go and check out the Colosseum, and again, you guys, I can't say it enough just how much I was just floored to see the beauty up close in person. And like I say, pictures don't even do it justice. When you are there, it's surreal, or at least it was for me. So I just am so grateful to have had this experience, and yeah, it was amazing. Now, on this trip, I absolutely got footage of food because there was so much good food on this trip. We got to eat at here, the Cafe Vaticano, with some authentic pasta and meatballs. The dessert was delicious. There was plenty of macaroons and gelato. That was going around. And yeah, the food here was just amazing and authentic. I mean, good pizza and pasta and drinks. And I even tried for the first time a tiramisu, and I actually enjoyed it. I did not think I would, but it was actually very good. And of course, no matter where you go in this world, you got to stop at a McDonald's, the good old Mickey D's. And it was no different on this trip because, hey, we have a 2-year-old who loves her chicken nuggets. And but what was really cool about this particular McDonald's is that this was actually the first McDonald's in Rome. So that was actually pretty cool. And yeah, it's very fancy, y'all. I mean, just look at the delicacies in their cafe. But one of the highlights of this trip was the food tour that we took with our awesome food tour guide, Mateus. He took us on a true journey.
We had an opportunity to try out some really cool spots that we may have otherwise overlooked. And we got to try some really good food, authentic salamis and authentic pizzas. I even learned where they got the name Margarita Pizza from. This is really cool.
There was good wine and supply and good gelato. It was really good. It was just so amazing on this trip because where obviously the food was the highlight and amazing, I really applaud Mateus because he included so much history in this trip for us, even taking us down the center of the Jewish community there in Rome and explaining to us, the importance of the Jewish community there, and sharing with us one of their staples that they had, during a time whenever they were excommunicated from society, the artichoke, and learning about this amazing story of these stomping stones that you would typically look over, but he explained to us that
these stones represented individuals in the Jewish community who had been executed during the Holocaust. And these stumbling stones were placed there by an individual, this gentleman who wanted to pay homage to those executed during the Holocaust. So he would create these stumbling stones and place them outside of their doorstep so that there would be some piece of them remembered, and they would always have someone to remember who they were, what they went through. And I thought it was just amazing to be able to experience this.
And of course, just like in Paris, there were things we did not get to see, like the inside of the Roman Pantheon. But again, that just means we got to go back. But out of this trip, it was just so many blessings, so many amazing memories, and there are definitely some lessons that were learned along our very first international travel, or at least the first international trip for me. And number one of the first things that I will make sure I take advantage of on my next international trip is learn the language. I promised myself before I left for this trip that I would take advantage of Babbel and learning maybe some French and even some Italian, and I did not do that, and it definitely presented itself to be a bit of a challenge, especially when it came to getting around through their form of Uber, which was I think it was called Freeform. But sometimes trying to get a ride and, trying to reach out to or communicate with the drivers was just a bit of a struggle in other places. And so next time I will definitely take advantage of learning the language. Number 2, speaking of getting Ubers or Freeform, definitely making sure that we take advantage of looking up the transportation around. Now, getting around was not too terrible because, we were able to do the Uber thing, and mostly where we stayed was in the center, so we were able to get around a lot of places on foot as well. But once we got to Paris and trying to get into one of the rides, the Ubers there, it was a nightmare. The communication barrier was there, and we didn't have a ride lined up, so it was a nightmare trying to get a ride from the airport to the hotel. And so arranging transportation, especially from the airport, very key. We did not make the mistake in Rome, and it worked out to our advantage, getting the shuttle from the hotel to pick us up from the airport. And speaking of having a hard time or a hassle with getting some type of fare from the airport in Paris to our hotel, third thing that I would make sure I take advantage of is making sure that we take care of our international data plan on our phone, and downloading any offline type maps or apps that would be helpful to us, because we didn't realize before we left that we didn't tidy up the international roaming thing. So when we were trying at the airport in Paris to get an Uber, oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. So we had to, on top of, trying to use the Wi-Fi at the airport, communicate with everyone that was not speaking our language, talk about fish out of water type of situation, and then not having like the right data so that we can make sure that we could use our phones to get or communicate. It was definitely a struggle. So and it presented itself to be a bit of a struggle throughout the trip. We were able to finally get our roaming and international set up, but it was a little spotty in Rome. So making sure we get that taken care of, or having some type of Wi-Fi capability with us, we'll definitely need to do that on our next international trip. And the fourth thing that I will make sure is making sure we stay abreast of COVID changes, you guys. On our way coming back home, we ran into a bit of an issue because we didn't realize that COVID regulations had changed, requiring our 2-year-old to have a COVID test. So we didn't have that for her. So we ended up having to miss our initial flight home, go to the COVID testing center there at the airport and get her COVID test, go back to check in, get another flight. And although obviously we made it home very safely, it was certainly much later than we were supposed to initially. So staying abreast of COVID changes during travel during this time is very key and important. And the fifth and final thing that this trip taught me, if no other trip has, is patience and flexibility. Like, there are going to be situations that you're going to run into. There are going to be moments with your toddler you're going to run into. There's just going to be things that are going to be out of your control, like the situation with the COVID and having to get her tested and missing our initial flight. There was nothing we can do to change that. So all we had to do, the only thing we could do, was be patient and flexible. And there were other instances throughout the trip where that became so true, especially being somewhere where they don't speak your primary language. And so, that patience and flexibility is super, super, super duper key. So those are the main 5 things that I learned from this trip, lessons learned that I will definitely be taking with me on our next international travel. And you guys, this trip was just such a huge blessing. And just with all the things that are going on in the world and how difficult things have been, especially with COVID and all the other things that are going on in this world today, I'm just so thankful to the Lord that He allowed us to be able to bring in 2022, making these beautiful memories. And I'm interested to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. What are you thankful for as you entered into this new year, 2022? Well, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to bringing more for you this year. And I just want to encourage you. There's so much going on out here that will try to keep us down, depressed, and sad. But I want to encourage you that if you haven't done so already, I want you to stop, take a moment, find a reason to laugh, and keep smiling. Until next time, and always, stay blessed.